Dan Brodsky Chenfeld joins us, better known as Dan BC. Welcome to Air Sports News, Dan.
Hey, thank you, Regan. Great to talk to you, man.
It's been a long time. I think the last time I saw you was at the PIA Symposium. That was maybe 5 years ago.
Man, we were usually able to cross paths every so often, but the last couple of years, not so much.
Yeah, it's closed us all down. So how are you? You doing okay?
Doing okay. Things are coming back to life. Skydive Paris has been getting busy again. The weather, fortunately, has been good and starting to get people back out. So yeah, it's all good. All good.
The wind tunnels here in Toronto were just going to open today, the 5th, and the government have just said they've got to shut all indoor stuff for the next 3 weeks. So we're nearly there, So,
it doesn't seem like we've got things as strict now. I mean, it's good. There's so many vaccines around.
Yeah.
There's more medicine that helps out. I mean, it seems like things are much more under control than it was 2 years ago, for sure, when it was new and we really didn't know what we were doing with. So hoping for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So give me a little snapshot of what's happening in your life right now, Dan. What you're doing this week? What's a day like for you? What's happening?
What's a day like? Well, it's beautiful outside. Sometimes I get to skydive all day, which is just fabulous, of course. I look forward to those all the time. We've got a really busy year scheduled at Skydive Paris. So most of it is getting ready for the upcoming season. The school has been busy. All the events are starting to be busy again. We've got a lot of military groups as well. So it's coordinating the entire operation.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I just
try to just sprinkle that with skydiving as much as I can. So
I just remembered the last time I saw you. It wasn't 5 years ago. I think it was about just over 2 years ago. I was there with Rich Grimm, called in, and we did some little bit of four-way with Gulshin and a few others. Yeah. So Dan, your book, this incredible book, which came out when was it?
About 10 years ago now. Yeah.
10 years ago. And you've been asked many things about the book, and most people know about the content of the book. But what I would like to find out first is there's a lot of life lessons in there, not only in skydiving, but for general life as well, in business and growing yourself personally. What did you learn, Dan, in the process of putting this book together? Did you learn anything about yourself during getting the book out?
It was quite an experience, really, because I hadn't sat back and thought, I want to write a book.
Yeah.
I was asked to write a book by the sponsor of the Russian 8-way team that I was coaching. And he said, we've had a lot of coaches, but no one's ever taught us the things you're teaching us. And I'd like you to write a book about it. And I thought, I don't have time to write a book. I've got a drop zone to run. I've got teams I'm working with, events I'm doing. And he said, I want you to take the time and write this book. And I said, what do you want the book to be about? And he said, how to win the world championships. And I said, that's about 10% skydiving and 90% everything else. How to set the goals, how to commit yourself, how to make the training plan, where to have your heart and soul dedicated to your efforts. But he said, write whatever you want, but include all the skydiving things. So I tried to write a book about how to win the world championships, which was mostly skydiving related. For him anyway, it included the technical parts of how to win 8-way. And after, about 3 months of working on this book, I gave him what I had. He was just going to translate it to Russian. So I just dumped the notes on him. I said, well, here you go. And by that time he had lost interest. But I had written so much that I wanted to do something with it. I had put a lot of effort into it, and I gave it to a few friends opinions I respect a lot, all friends of yours. And they all read through what I had. And I said, just come back to me with whatever you think. And everybody had different opinions, but what they all agreed on was that the personal stories I had used were the parts that were the most impactful. And there was very few personal stories because it wasn't about me. It was about how to win the world meet. But I had to use a few personal stories to tell that story. And after they all, came back with that, said, these stories, these are the best part. Then I really was thinking, if I was going to write a book, what would I want it to be about? It wouldn't be all about skydiving. It would be something that my kids could read, something that they would get something out of. So I started thinking through, what are the stories in my life that led to me being so passionate about what I did and choosing to pursue a life towards the things I was passionate about, that led me down this road, that made me continue to push in the sport that I loved, that got me to come back towards my goals and to pursue my goals after a plane crash like that. And all those stories were things that started from a young age. And it was fun to look back, because I had never thought about it before, and to look back and really discover in myself, wow, those are the things that made a difference. I never had thought about it before. You discover a lot of the important things from deep in your past, some which were fit to print and some which weren't.
Yeah, how do you decide what you're going to put in there?
You cut a lot out. You cut a lot out. And when you have a lot of teammates calling and saying, you're not going to put everything in, are you? Say, don't worry. It's all fit to print. It's all good.
Yeah.
So there's a whole nother edition of what's not fit, I'm sure. So.
And did you have professional help in the edit of what was going to go in there and what wasn't? And then my second question to that is, was there anything which somebody was taking out which you really believe that should have been in there?
Not so much the publisher themselves. I had a real publisher do it. So the publisher assigned an editor to the book, and the editor did clean it up some. So it helped, but not in terms of the content as much as just cleaning up the editing. But there was about 75 pages that seemed to be redundant. That was the themes were similar, even though the stories were different. So there is a big chunk that I'd like to figure out something to do with, but for the most part, it is what I wrote, for better or for worse. It's from me.
And do you think now, having this bit of time in this space, do you think you might have another one in you?
No.
One and done?
I don't. It takes, I didn't think I had that one either. And this became kind of possessed to get it out. It was a kind of thing, that you can relate to, where it's a goal that you get that you can't get away from.
Yeah.
It just haunts you. You're up at night working on it. It wakes you up, and it forces you to get it out. So at the moment, there isn't that type of a goal of something I want to write that much about or the time to do it. So, but it could still come. You never know.
One of the stories which has always fascinated me since I first heard it or read it was at World Meet, when the exit, there was something about the break to the second point, half the team on one point, half the team on another point, and it took like 5 or 6 seconds before you reset, and then there's just kind of demon took over the whole team, and you'd skydive like you'd never done before. That's always fascinated me.
That was one of the great moments in my competitive history, which is long. And what happened, we're at the World Championships. We exited with the first point, and it didn't go as well. The first point and the second point were almost identical. And the exit didn't come off well. It broke, but it didn't completely break. Half the team went to the second point, half the team thought we were still on the first point. And it was very confusing for a moment, and we were wasting time. And then suddenly the whole team just took a breath, decided it was the second point, and went and had the best skydive we had ever had in our lives. Skydiving at a level that we really never had. We landed from the jump and went, what the hell was that? Where'd that come from? So we'll go screw up the exit every time if we get to skydive like that. That was great. But it was really part of the training, which taught us to be calm, which taught us to handle whatever situation came up, taught us to collectively choose to go to 100% when it was ready.
Yeah.
So it really just proved that our training was as productive and as useful when it came down in the heat of the moment like that.
There's some magic about freefall with other people, isn't there? Not necessarily competition, but just being in the sky with other people. There's a certain kind of woo-woo communication goes on, which you can't explain.
I really would think that at this point, I'd have had enough. I mean, I've been doing this for 42 years. I've got over 30,000 jumps, did a few jumps the other day and loved it. I just love it. Just getting out of the airplane, hitting the air, love it, looking in the eyes of your friends, whatever you're doing. I mean, obviously that jump you're talking about was one very intense moment, but just the pleasure and the communication of sharing this incredible experience of human flight and being so present in the moment that whatever else is going on in the world, you know what, for 60 seconds, you really don't care. none of this is important. At the moment, it's just about what we're doing and sharing this together and enjoying it and loving it. And it's still the best thing in the world.
It's hard to walk off the field in a bad mood, isn't it? It really is.
You know, I could never understand how anybody could have a bad day at the drop zone. It's every day is great. It's fun. People, you know, will land from a jump and someone will ask me, how was your jump? And I was like, how could it be? It was great. They're all great. Every one of them is great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you've been through a lot, and we all know what you've been through, you know, with loss and with the crash, but other, you know, being full-time in the sport, we've all lost a lot of people and we've seen a lot of things happen as well. Would you say there's been a number of times where you've almost turned your back on it? More than once, or not at all ever? Or can you think of certain times when you've said, you know what, I've had enough?
In I believe it was 2011, we had far too many accidents at Paris than we should have had. And it was, you know, it was just one of those times where for it seemed like a year, everything that could go wrong did. Every time that with just a little bit of luck, everybody would have walked away, there wasn't the luck that you get away with. And we had several accidents and several fatalities. And it was to the point that I could hardly stand to walk on the drop zone. I was worried every second, every time I looked up at the sky, what's gonna happen now? And there was a period of time, it made me think about, you know, I don't know how much more of this I can look at. But then I really thought about what can we do better? What can we do better? And we weren't being a negligent drop zone then. I mean, Paris was a safe drop zone then. We had good rules, we had good mentorship. You know, it wasn't a reckless every man for himself skydiving center at all at that time. But it really made me think, what else can I do? What else can I do to try to make this sport safer, to make people wake up, to make people pay more attention, to not have to rely on luck at all? And at that time, rather than deciding to step out of it, I decided to go on a mission, just trying to promote safety in every way I could possibly think of, whether it was articles or videos or conversations or addressing everything. Every time I saw anything that I thought could lead to a dangerous situation, I would bring it up. I would never let it go by. Where a lot of times we just let things go.
Yeah.
And it seemed to make a difference, and it seemed to let me sleep better at night. So after that, I was completely back in again. It was a very short period of time that I actually thought about stepping away.
Yeah, good. And you know, you've done some amazing work with the safety, with the videos, and you know, with the articles, and we've seen them, and I've read them and watched them. And you never know really what impact that's having, do you? It could just light a fire in somebody's brain, and just, you know, might just give somebody a bit of a better day. It's very interesting. What other things are you seeing at the moment, Dan, which make you think, oh, come on, guys, please, you know, what are the one or two things that people are doing on a daily basis which you wish you could just clean up?
I think we all just become unintentionally complacent. People think they're doing the things they're supposed to do, and they're just not enough. You know, the problem is that the equipment has advanced to such a great point. The sport has advanced that most of the time, we can be completely complacent and have our heads completely up our asses, and the sky is big enough, and most of the time we can get by. And then there's the times where you can't get by at all. You need to be on top of it. And we need to prepare for those all the time. Yeah. Those are the times we need to prepare. Just the most basic things. I see people throwing rigs on without doing a gear check before they put the ring on their back. And I'll stop them right where they are. And we will have a talk about how important that is. Checking their handles before they get out of the airplane, getting on jumps that they shouldn't be on yet, people trying to advance too quickly, whether it's trying to be on formations that are too big or canopies that are too small or whatever it is, just trying to advance too quickly. And it's kind of an overall culture of just people feeling too comfortable too soon. Yeah. And that's not how you have to approach this sport. You've got to approach it with thinking about everything that can go wrong could go wrong on this jump, and I need to be prepared for this jump. If this is a jump I'm going to have a malfunction. If I knew I was going to have a malfunction now, how much preparation would I do on my emergency procedures? If I knew I was going to be crowded coming into the landing area, where would my attention be? What would my plan be for when there was too many canopies there? You have to think about this every jump, and I actually do. I really think about it every jump that I make.
Yes. Yeah, and I try to as well, especially Andy Macchiodi has the same philosophy, and I'm sure you talk with Andy a lot as well. I've load organized a lot with Andy, and I've really picked up my game in that of trying to really imagine the worst case on every single jump, even just in the plane on takeoff. What's going on. How often do we see people on the yellow light, green light, they throw the door open and out they go? They're not even looked outside the plane once.
Yeah.
It's
far too often.
Yeah.
So I think it's just raising the attention of everybody, getting them to realize how quickly things can go wrong. And what generally happens is we become too complacent until we scare the crap out of ourselves.
Right.
And then hopefully when we get scared, we live through it and we wake up.
Yeah.
But we're not always that lucky.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we get scared, we get severely injured or worse.
So tell me about your day when you arrive at the drop zone. What are you doing first? What happens?
It all depends on what's going on that particular day. Skydive Paris is very active. There's a lot happening here. Fortunately, we've got a lot of great people at the drop zone. So it's not like I have to micromanage anything or that I have to go and do anything in particular every day to make sure that the place operates smoothly. We've got great manifest, great pilots, great organizers, instructors. The maintenance crew is terrific. The ground safety crew is terrific. So the best days, the very best days, I could just show up and jump. And I still love to do that as much as possible. Last weekend, this is a particular time of year. It's relatively slow right before it really kicks in. For the next 6 months, it's going to be going crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of weeks where it's mostly the local jumpers, and I can just show up and go play all day, which is my favorite days.
Brilliant. How's that DC-9 doing?
I'm looking at it right now. It looks great. It runs great. I'll let you know when we're going to fly a load in it.
Absolutely fantastic. Dan, we all know full-time skydiving, sunrise till sunset. You don't get much chance of anything else, but you've got to have other things in your life, your fitness. And tell me what you've got going on outside of jumping.
The jumping keeps you really busy, and I'm happy that it does. The one thing that's beautiful about Southern California is an hour from the drop zone, I'm looking at Big Bear and there's snow in the mountains. It's easy to go skiing there. An hour the other direction, you're down at the beach.
Yeah.
So all the things that other people do for vacations, we can do in an hour drive from here.
Yeah.
So I try to take advantage of those things and just go have nice, relaxed, enjoyable days there as well.
Let's talk a little bit about your championships. You've won a hell of a lot of stuff. And what sticks in your mind? What springs to your mind first as being one of the most memorable championships? Whether it be a win or a loss,
Man, there's so many.
Yeah.
In general, the ones that the competitions where, your team knows what your best is when you go into the meet.
Right.
And no matter more than anything else, you want to go and do your best. You want to go and you want to track off from every jump thinking, man, beat that. That's what we got. Beat that if you can.
Yeah.
And the times where I've been able to do that, and you're never going to do that for 10 jumps where they're all the best jumps. But the times where, for the most part, that was the meet where you're tracking away thinking, man, that was a great jump, was a wonderful experience. There were times where I tracked away on these jumps, looking at my teammates thinking, no one will touch that. We killed them on this jump. And then we landed to find out we got beat. But you can't feel bad about that. You land, man, if they can beat that, well, they can have that one, because that was the best we can do. And there's been other times where, you track away on a jump and it's, man, we left some on the table. That wasn't our best. But you land from the jump and we still won. We still won. Being the best was never as much fun as doing your best.
Right.
You know, doing your best was just great. That was completely fulfilling. Now, if you can do both, if you
Yeah.
can do your best and win, that's the ultimate victory for
Yeah.
competitors. But more than anything is knowing what your best is and being able to go up there and deliver it is a huge, wonderful reward.
That fits into anything in life, doesn't it? I mean, I'm processing that now. You know, knowing what your best is and bringing it, doing that, no matter what it might be.
And there were just times, depending on the year, you know, especially after the first few years with airspeed, where we were far enough ahead that we were the best team.
Yeah.
At a few competitions, so much that we didn't have to necessarily do our best to win. But the times that we didn't do our best and won, it didn't really feel like much of a victory.
You'd know about it, you feel it in your heart.
Yeah, it felt like more of a victory to do our best and lose.
Yes, I can totally understand. What year was your first jump, Dan?
1980.
1980. When was it you realised, one, it could be competitive, and two, that you wanted to do that you wanted to compete?
You know, I started at a tiny little drop zone with 172 that they just got from a place that you could rent planes, and every dime they just took the seats out of it, took the doors off of it, and off we went. And that's all I knew that skydiving could be. And they had a 182 one day. And all we did back then was we would just exit and try to get together. That's what a jump was. You know, we went to 7.595 if we were really lucky. Yeah. And everybody would just jump out and try to build a star. And that's all there was. There wasn't. I didn't know that there was anything besides that in skydiving, and that was great. You know, I didn't need any more. That was fantastic. You know, and if we could build a star, we would just hold on to each other and scream till $3,000 and then break off.
Yeah.
And I remember one day there was 4 guys who I hadn't met before, and they showed up at this. They were just driving by and decided they'd stop at this little place. And they went over to the Cessna, and they lined up an exit on the Cessna, and they were practicing. You know, they were going to launch a star off the airplane, and I'm just watching them, and then they were going to break, and they were going to let go of each other, and then like turn and do a different formation, and then break again and turn and do another formation. And I was looking at them. I thought, what are you guys doing? Yeah. And they said, we're doing 4-way. And I said, what's 4-way? I said, you guys actually going to launch? You're going to exit with a formation? And they said, yeah. And I said, and then you're going to break it? I said, man, I spend the whole time trying to get to the formation. If I get to it, I am not letting go until I have to pull. It's so enjoyable just to do it. And they told me about 4-way, and they told me about the national championships. And I had no idea that it was any kind of competition until then, but sort of fell in love with the idea. You know,
what year would that be? What year would have that been?
That would have still been 1980.
1980. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the little club, that was just a little club that I was jumping at, and it closed down in the fall. And the Greene County Sport Parachute Club in Xenia, Ohio, was open all year round. So then when that club closed, I went down to discover Xenia and what was going on down there. And I met Jim Fangmeyer and John Woody, who were the 2 most experienced jumpers who were doing 4-way down there. And they just saw this young, punk, horny, crazy kid who they knew they could manipulate any way they wanted, and I became a 4-way guy.
Incredible. So. Incredible. It's what a story, isn't it? It really is. And I think people watching from skydiving who said, hear you say there, you would bring the star down to $3,000 before you broke off, and they'd be thinking, what? Breaking off at 3,000 feet? I mean, that's what we used to do, isn't it?
You know, we're supposed to be 3.5. That was, you know, but you know, it would be 3.5, 3 right in there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's changed now. You never pulled above 2, right? 2 is the minimum, official minimum pack opening altitude.
Yeah.
But back then it became the maximum. I mean, you'd never pull before then because you don't want to waste the free fall time.
Right.
Things have changed now. I'm not promoting this by any stretch of the imagination. I try to pull closer to 3.5 now. So. Yeah,
it doesn't seem to, whenever I'm on a boogie or an event, you very rarely have to tell people these days for pulling low. It's not something which seems to be the problem it used to be.
No. Well, AADs don't really let you get away with it anymore. So
yeah. Thank
goodness. So
So what's your favorite type of jump right now? What would you be excited to go and do? Any jump, of course, you'd love to go and do. But what would you really enjoy today if you had an opportunity?
I honestly still enjoy them all so much, and it's so great to see so many different disciplines developing.
Yeah.
One of the things I really have enjoyed over my 4+ decades of skydiving was just watch the evolution of the sport. And in many ways, when I first started, the formation skydivers were the new guys, right? The nationals, there's only been formation skydiving at the nationals for about 4 years when I started. And that was the new guys. That was the young kids, the crazy kids doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I've been fortunate enough to have a front row seat on the development of free flying, wingsuiting, tracking and angle flying. And it's just great to see people just figure out new ways of creating disciplines. Who would ever thought that tracking was going to be a discipline all by itself? And now look at it. It's great watching the things they're doing. But it's funny because each, some of the drop zones, and you start to see different sort of cliques of this is the free flyers, and this is the formation skydivers, and this is the wingsuiters. And one thing I enjoy about Paris, and one thing I enjoy just having seen these disciplines develop over the years, is it's a bunch of skydivers, man.
Yeah.
I don't care. You think it's a bunch of cliques and different groups and whatever, but it's not. It's a bunch of bozo skydivers. It's completely the same people, just with different ways that they like to fly. And it's fun, at Paris, we have a lot of people going between disciplines and playing lots of the different games. We all, hang out together, and it's great to see. And it's great for myself to have a chance to go and do this as well. I'm supposed to have a wingsuit day scheduled later this week, which we've moved around, which is a big deal for me. I was Eric Galen was doing a crew camp over here, and we used to do crew all the time, right? That's just what you did when you got open. It wasn't a crew jump. That's just I'm under my parachute. I might as well do crew.
Yeah.
So we went up and did a 16-way sequential crew jump, and there was Will Kiddo and a few of the other wingsuiters came flying by, buzzing our 16-way diamond. How can you how can you not enjoy just watching the sport that has developed like this?
And that belly jump you did last year, was it last year, with the spiral, the multi-level spiral? Beautiful.
Yeah, I still love more than anything, formation skydiving is still what my favorite thing is, and there's still new things to develop. Yeah. And that was actually something I saw Andy Macchiodi did a event at Elsinore where they were doing this vertical free fly jump. And Andy is a good friend of mine, and I saw that and I thought, man, we need to do that. I want to do some of that on formation skydiving also. And contacted Andy, and we talked, it's so for so long, the free flyers have been using what we learned through formation skydiving towards developing free flying. Yeah. And now it's come where it's gone the other direction as well, where we're learning things from them also. So it was great. I, basically stole all the technique that he used with the free flyers and tried to apply it to our group. And it was great. We tried it with 18 ways first, and then did a 56-way or something with this big corkscrew. Was like 100 feet from top to bottom.
Wow.
Great. Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. I want to grab hold of Andy in Costa Rica and see if we can do a smaller version. And what about the children in the tunnels, Dan? The stuff they're doing with a few hours. Incredible.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's amazing to watch. And just when you think that the sport has gone as far as it can go, as soon as you have kids that are learning to do it before they can even jump, who even knows where they're going to take it from here? The dynamic flying people are seeing in the tunnels also, it's there's no end. There's no end.
We're just starting to see now over the last year or two some of the champions from the tunnel who were too young to jump, who are starting to jump now. Kira Paul, Maya Kajinska, who are getting in the sky, Red Bull sponsored already. It's just incredible what's happening. And we're going to see more of that, aren't we, as the years go on now, more and more. I mean, not everybody who flies in the tunnel is going to want to skydive, of course, but the ones that do.
And the one thing that concerns me is the safety part of it again then. Because what were happening, when I learned to skydive, when you learned to skydive, we were scared for a long time.
I still am.
We were scared. You know, our experience, it took a long time to get any experience at all. And our skills were way behind our experience.
Yes.
You know, it took me 6 months to get my first 50 jumps. And during that time, I was watching people at the drop zone. I was seeing a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
And I had no skills at all, right? There was no tunnel. You didn't jump with anybody.
Yeah.
But I was gaining a lot of experience, and my experience was way ahead of my skill. And now with the tunnel, there's a lot of times where people's skill is way ahead of their experience.
Right.
And their highly developed skill will lead them to being overconfident about the safety aspects of skydiving. And that's where some of the complacency we spoke of. And this is something in the sport across, not just for these amazing tunnel flyers, but just people learn in tunnels. They learn with AFF. They learn so much quicker that very often their skill is ahead of their experience, and their confidence is ahead of their experience.
Yes.
And that's where things become dangerous. So I think that's an important thing for us to keep an eye on as a community as we continue to develop.
Yeah. And anybody that's not read your book yet, Dan, above all else, where can they find it?
It's on Amazon. It's at Gold State Gear at the Skydive Paris. Some of the other gear equipment stores have it as well, but Amazon's probably the easiest way.
And Paris, California, Hollywood, you've got all the connections there from the film industry. You've got the film stars and movie stars jumping there. Are we going to see your life on the silver screen at some point?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It would be, I think it would be an amazing thing for the sport. You know, before the plane crash, in 1989, when I first did my first full-time team in Coolidge,
yeah, and
I was living in my van, I thought, wouldn't it be incredible if there was a movie about the sport of skydiving? You know, skydiving was just beginning to be used in the movie industry then. Point Break hadn't come out yet. It was getting ready to. James Bond movies had a bunch of skydiving in them. And people would see the skydiving in the movies and they'd be amazed. They'd think it was fabulous. But it was all stunts. And we'd see it and we'd think, that's just ridiculous. It's fun, but it's not skydiving. But people would see that and they would love it. They would love it and they would get interested in skydiving. And people would also watch sport movies. And these are people who never got off the couch, but they loved watching the sport movies of sports they never participated in. And it may be football or baseball or tennis or biking or all sorts of different sports. And I thought back then, wouldn't it be great if there was a sports movie about skydiving, something that showed them skydiving, the visuals that they love, but the sport that we love, the sport that we know, an athletic drama about skydiving. And I actually started working on writing one back then before the crash, and it was titled Above All Else, was the original thought.
Yeah.
So hopefully I think having a movie about the sport of skydiving, I think would do more for the sport to really develop it and to bring it to the public than anything else could. I think people don't realize, they still think, the general public still thinks it's just a adrenaline junkie activity people just go out and do once or twice. They don't realize it's the sport, you know.
Lifestyle.
It's funny, I'll have people say that don't jump. I mean, you guys must all have a death wish. There must be some kind of death wish. I was like, if we had a death wish, we'd be dead. Yeah, it's easy. It's the opposite of that. We have nothing.
Life wish.
We love what we're doing, and we want to do it some more. So.
Yeah, we do indeed. Well, Dan, it's getting towards that time of day where you need to go and get your coffee and get your jumpsuit on and turn on your AAD and go and jump.
I'm hoping so.
Thanks very much for joining me. It's been a brilliant chat, Dan. I've been looking forward to this for quite a few months, waiting for the right opportunity. And I think we got something out of you there, which has not been heard before. So I'm happy.
Ring, it's always a pleasure, buddy. And I've been loving your artwork, by the way. The painting.
Thank you.
Doing beautiful.
Yeah, we've just moved to a new apartment. So we're just getting everything in place. And I'm going to start painting again very soon.
Great, man. Well, I hope to see you soon, buddy.
Take care, Dan. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Bye-bye.